He's not a Viking. He's a big Viking. He thinks he's awesome.
Hey everybody, it's me, Undead Viking. I'm here to review another game for you. The game I'm going to be showing you today is called... it's called King's Abbey, and there's a lot of noisy components in there. King's Abbey is a worker placement game that'll take you about an hour to an hour and a half to play. It's for 2 to 4 players, and it is based on the idea that each person is a holy man that is running a abbey for the king, and you are going to be recruiting peasants to your abbey. You're going to be baptizing them and putting them to work in buildings that you will create, and also you will be training some of them to be archers and also to go on crusades. You'll also be working on your own personal appointed level within the church. You know, theoretically, you start off as a lowly friar, and you can work yourself all the way up to being a high priest. And so there's all kinds of things going on. As I said, it is a worker placement game. You are collecting resources and using those resources to build buildings, build towers, build defenses, and also feed your peasants, feed the people that you're supposed to be taking care of. So let me show you how to play the game, and then we'll come back here as we always do, and I'll tell you exactly what I think about the King's Abbey. Alright, cool. Let's do this. This is the game board to King's Abbey. This is obviously the main board where a lot of the placing of the dice after you roll them occurs. However, that isn't the only place we'll be placing the dice. I always hate moving the camera in my reviews, but because of the larger game board and the larger player board, I have to do it in this case, so I apologize for that. This is your own personal King's Abbey, if you will. Each player will have a board like this, which they will then use to build up their own personal abbey. There's locations there to build towers within your abbey, and also these are spots that you use to build the different buildings that are within your abbey. You'll notice there's also these places where you'll build walls that are represented by these guys here. You might notice that there is a little green cube in there. That is a peasant that is currently worshiping at your abbey, and as you'll like get more peasants, you can see there's more of the little green cubes over there. You'll get more peasants, and they'll come and worship at your abbey, and then you'll be able to employ those peasants in the different buildings that you have. This purple cube right here actually represents you, the player. As you gain more experience, you start off as a friar, then you become a deacon, and then a bishop, and then a priest, and then you'll move up this track, if you will. And you don't have to reach the end to win the game or anything like that, but you do get bonuses for moving up. You can see these like different shields here where you gain defense when you get up there, and defense is important because the higher your defense is, the better you'll be able to fight like the darkness. This is the Dark Ages and things. The darkness represents like plague and pestilence and raiders and things like that. And so it's important to have a good defense. Your defense is tracked by this cube up here. You do start with one building. You'll notice these buildings have starting card on them. And I'll go over more on buildings just a second, but I'm just going to randomly pick one of these for my starting building. Here, hold on. And what do we get? The cloister. Oh, that's kind of nice. The cloister, and you gain 1 permanent defense. So what you do is you place your first building that you get there, and because it is your first building, you get to immediately take one of your peasants and place them on there, like so, meaning that you actually have a peasant working there, and you immediately gain that defense. We can just go ahead and click that up like that. And then if I was playing a 4-player game, which I'm going to kind of represent here, the other players would get one of these randomly as well. You know, it's like here, the library, flip 1 die to any side, 1 time each round. Stone can be purchased at 3 and traded at 4, so, you know, Moore's Guild. And the garden, gain 1 grain for every 3 grain during the harvest phase. Grain is important because you use it to feed your peasants so they don't starve and die or leave you or what have you. So, I'm not going to show you an exhaustive step-by-step gameplay of this one. It's just because there's a lot going on, but I am going to try to just give you a real good grasp of the mechanisms that are included within the game. You start off with 9 dice, and these represent the monks that work within your abbey. There is a building that once you build it, allows you to get the final die, and so you'll have 10 total dice. Now you might think, actually I thought, so I get 9 workers to start with, because this is kind of a worker placement game. I thought, wow, that's really weird, but as you can see, and as I'll explain, and you always feel like you don't have enough anyway. So I'm just gonna quick roll these like so, and I'm just gonna take them. So I got like a bunch of 1s, a 5, 6, and a 3, and so forth. And so we'll just put those down here a little bit. After you roll the dice, every turn you will draw an event card, and you can see this awesome, cool little Viking that's on the front there. Any game with a Viking gets a thumbs up from me. But Vikings can show up, and you have to fight them. The first round you can't have a Viking, so if we draw a Viking card, we will redraw. But we get this. Oh, it's a Year of Plenty card, and it says each player receives 1 of each resource. So each player would then take a wood, a grain, a sand, and a stone. So they get 1 of each, and they will go ahead and place those in their player boards. You can't see my player board obviously right now, but you'll see it when I come down there. Other cards you can draw in the game, well, there's a Viking card, and I'll explain those after a little bit. Basically, you have to fight off the Vikings, and if you don't, they do bad things. And then there's also disaster cards, like this one, where it says there's an Abbey scandal. Any player with the clergy training group on any of the 4 middle squares loses 1 level of training. So you'd go down 1 level of training if that was the case. So we will go ahead and place the rest of the event cards back up there, and then after each turn you draw 1 of those. Each person does get a crusade card to start with as well. The crusade card tells you that you need 5 of a kind. So basically you need to get 5 dice on this crusade card of any 1 number. And then you get 8 points, 8 prestige. So you get victory points for it. You'd get sand, and you'd also get a wagon. Wagons, whenever you collect resources, if you use up a wagon, you get to collect 1 extra resource of that particular thing. You also can get, well, it's called a tool bag, if you will. And if you use a tool bag, you're able to raise the pip of a die by 1. So it's like, you can just, and you can use multiple tool bags. If you have multiple tool bags, to raise it higher than 1. So if you rolled a 4, you can use 2 and raise it to a 6. But anyway, so each person gets 1 of these, and you can try to complete it. The interesting thing about this is that, like, say you have like 4 3s on here, and there's 1 3 left, you don't have another 3, but you'd really like to complete this. You can ask somebody else to use 1 of their dice on this particular card, and but then you have to kind of negotiate. You're like, okay, well, if I do that, you can have 2 prestige points in the wagon, if you will. You also, when you use this, you have to place 1 of your peasants on there as well, because you're sending them off on the crusade, and you don't get that peasant back until the crusade card is filled up. So something to think about as well. After you complete a crusade, you then take it and you turn it upside down, because of the fact that you can hide like how many points you got and things like that. I should also mention that you are able to buy more crusade cards later at like the last little round of the phases. You can buy them for a coin each. But anyway, getting a little bit ahead of myself there, but I just wanted to show you the crusade cards. So after you rolled all those dice, you then can place them. I'm going to show you where you can place them up here up top, just so you can see that. You can place any die in the initiative spot, and that immediately means you get the first player marker. The first turn, the first player marker is completely random. You just roll the dice and figure out. But after that, and then you also get to claim the top token that's on that spot. And in this case, it is grain, so you'd get a grain for claiming that token. There's sand, there's stone, all the resources in these tokens. Plus, there is a tool bag and a wagon in there as well. So you can get those when you claim those. And you just do that, obviously. You can put any die in there like so. There is also, you can see these locations to collect the different resources. When you place them there, you can notice there's these spots that say bonus underneath it. What you do is you can take your dice and you can just say, okay, I'm going to put it there like that. And then when you collect the resources, you say, okay, how many point total do you have? 3. So 3 goes into 6. Twice, you get 2 grain for that particular spot. If I went over to collect wood, you get 3 wood. If you went over to either sand or stone, you'd get 1 of each. You don't get like halves, or you don't get any of your pips back or anything like that. Now, you can use the bonus spot. You notice both the two that have different bonus spots like that. What you can do is you can place a second die like that, and you can only do that if this spot is open, if the bonus spots are open. And you can say, I'm claiming that, and then you'd have 12, divided by 4, and you get 3. So you can get 2 of your dice over there on those spots to collect more resources. To place also on the dice, now I'm going to have to go down to the player board, so I do apologize for moving the camera. But going down here to the player board, there are also the locations. Here, you can place up to 3 dice over here and up to 3 dice over here. 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6. And then for each 1, 2, or 3 that you place over there, you get to place more of these dudes in these locations. They won't, so like let's say this person had moved up to that spot, you just place them in the locations that are available. If, say there was 3 there and you're replacing 2 or 3 more, you just put them in the furthest spot that's over. If you had a situation for whatever reason that was like that, and you placed one in the 1, you'd place it all the way over there. Pretty straightforward. And your goal is you're trying to get your peasants to the end, this final pew, and that allows them to go to the baptistry, which is down there. And that's a free move when you get over there, and I'll explain the moving the peasants here in just a little bit. But once they're baptized, they can start working in your buildings that you have. You also have the option, if you build towers, like battlements, like this is a tower that you can build, and you get 6 towers, and you can build them whenever during the build phase. You can build them if you have the correct stuff. Like here's, you need you need 3 wood, 1 grain, 1 stone, 1 sand, and 6 coins. You can build a battlement, and you can see it's worth 12 points if you do it, and it's also worth 1 defense if you put an archer on there. Archers don't have to be baptized. You can just put them on there, but you got to pay 5 coins to train them, and then you can just place one of your people that you've gotten to that point, and you just obviously put a tower down. Notice how you have 6 different towers. You get like you have a battlement, 2 battlements, a chapel and a bell tower, and 2 gate towers. I'm sorry, you didn't really show those. 2 gate towers, a bell tower, chapel, 2 battlements, but you only have 4 spots. So you kind of have to decide which ones you're going to use. There's also this altar spot right there. You can build an altar for 2 wood and 4 coins, and then when you build the altar, it's also worth a defense as well, that you get to move up like that. And I already explained the walls. You place them, and once you place all 5 walls down during the build phase, that's worth a defense as well. So if you got them all, and they cost 1 stone each, if you build them all, then you move up on your defense as well for putting all 5 of the walls in. Now, as I said, you have these 6 spots open, and you put buildings in there. Now, to get buildings, I'm going to have to go back up. I do apologize. Up here you have your buildings, and I'm just going to grab one at random here. Let's see here. The bakery, let's say. Alright, and so this is where you will purchase the buildings, but you don't build them yet. You purchase them, if you notice, there's 4 coins, 3 coins, and 2 coins there. You spend coins to purchase the building, and there's 2 rounds of buying the buildings. You can pass if you want, but that means you can't buy in the second round of buying, or buying the buildings. And the first round, you get 4 coins to start with, so you can always buy one to begin with. But if you build this, it'll cost 1 wood, 2 grain, and 1 stone. When you buy it, you immediately get the bonus that's down here. So when you buy the bakery, you get 2 wood. When you finish building it, it'll be worth 2 prestige points. And the bakery will feed 1 to 4 peasants each round. Now that sounds like, does it like you're all D4? No. It feeds like up to 4 peasants. When it comes time to feed, you need 1 grain to feed up to 4. You need 2 grain to feed up to 8. And if you have 9 or more peasants, you have to have 3 grain. So in this case, if you had this, you would be able to just not have to worry about feeding the first 4 of the peasants, if you will. So you take that and you place it in your personal supply because you've bought it. You don't fill those in. Once they're bought, they're gone. And then when it, so when you build it, you'll place it on your, when you have the right resources, you'll place it on your player board. Of course, it won't work until you actually get one of your peasants baptized, and then can go work at your bakery. So then, now after you purchase, technically, now you collect your resources and your initiative tokens and everything like that. Then you can move peasants. Once again, I got to move down. Normally, you only have 1 move, but one of the big things that you want to do is you want to get this guy up. You want to get your friar to the top level, because and then once you get there, you go down here and but bonus, once you get your friar to the top level and you get to deacon or whatever, well, actually, just get the cube to there, you get a bonus of 2 peasant moves. So you can actually move 3 times. And what you then you just move your peasants slowly up. They're working their way up to getting in the front row. And once they're in the front row, as a free move, they can go to here. And also as a free move, they can move into, so like let's say we built that bakery. As a free move, if you have somebody in your baptistry, they can just immediately go and use that spot and then go to work in your bakery. But the build phase is actually after moving peasants. And so, but that doesn't matter since it's a free move. As long as you have guys in baptistry, if you get a building set up, boom, they can go in there. The only thing for moving peasants is, like I said, getting them to that front row, and then but then they obviously, as I said, they get to free move into both the baptistry, or if they're in the baptistry already, they can go ahead and get into the buildings that you have available. I should mention, like I said, it goes like this, and you gain a level, and like that, and so forth. You'll notice at the very end you see that 4P. It's worth 4 prestige. If you can get your yourself basically up to the highest level of priest, not only do you get 3 extra defense for those spots, but you get 4 prestige points if you get to the very end of that as well. After you do your build, then you go into the harvest phase. The harvest phase affects 2 major buildings that you can build. The sheep farm and also the garden. As I said, like I showed you that cartoon, let me see, I think I have, okay, cool, I have a garden right here. As you can see in this garden, it says for you gain 1 grain for every 3 grain during the harvest phase. So you can gain extra grain at that point because of the fact that you have a garden and you're able to grow it. And then the extra gain can then be used to feed your people, which is important because in actuality you can't keep more than 3 of each resource unless you have a tithing. A tithe barn. There we go. So if you have a tithing barn, it allows you can keep greater than 3 resources at the end of each round. So that's kind of a good combo there. If you're gaining a lot of grain, the tithe barn will actually let you keep it instead of having it just immediately go to the church or what have you. Ah, there we go. I found a sheep farm. Let me just show you that really quick. Sheep are obviously they're worth good prestige at the end of the game. If you can get your sheep farm full, but you place 1 cube per round, 5 max. 1 sheep equals 2 food. Or 2 prestige points. One of the things you do with the sheep farm is you immediately put 2 sheep on there, and then you can you actually with a working peasant you collect 1 sheep during the lambing, and the silence of the lambs. No, during this phase, you put but you have to have at least 2 sheep on there because, well, obviously 2 sheep that's how they have a lamb. You have to have 2 sheep, and you can run out of sheep because sometimes you will use them for food. But you know, I'll just put that one right there. But you do the lambing, you do the garden, and then you have to feed your peasants. Like I said, you have to feed. If you feed the peasants you have out, you have to. If you have 1 through 4, you have to feed 1 grain or 1 food. If there's 5 through 8, you got to feed 2, and if you have 9 or more, you have to feed 3. And so, but you can have different things that takes care of it. And if you do kill one of your sheep, it feeds up to 8 of your peasants, which is kind of nice, obviously. If you can't feed them, you lose a peasant and 2 prestige for each level they can't pay for. By level, I mean 3 plus, 5 through 8, I mean like 1 through 4, 5 through 8, or 9 plus. So if you have, say, 9 plus, and you can feed 1, if you have enough food to feed 1 through 4, then you'd lose 2 peasants and 4 prestige, because you can't feed, 2 of those levels of the total people that you have. So, the darkness tracker does go up each turn. It's one of the things that happens at the very end. But wherever the darkness is at, you have to have defense that equals the darkness level of each round. If you don't have enough, you lose 1 peasant and 2 prestige for each darkness level that you can't match. Pretty straightforward, but there you go. I mean, you have to if you lose the peasants, you have to take them from pews or buildings or towers. You can take your archers, if you will. Then after that, you collect your income. You collect 1 coin for every peasant that you have in your pew, or your baptistry, or buildings, or towers. Peasants that are off on crusades don't earn you any money. And also peasants can be placed on the Viking cards, which I'll show you before I finish. Those don't earn you money. So you get 1 coin each. If you happen to have a brewery, you actually earn 2 coins for each peasant. So you can make a lot of money if you have a brewery, actually. So now is when if you finished off a crusade, now this is when you collect your rewards. And if you want to, you can spend a coin and like get another crusade. And so like here's a cheap and easy one. 2 of a kind, you get 2 prestige, 2 coins, and you get to move your purple cube. So you can have that, and you can have that out for the next round. And but you can never have more than 2 crusades at any one time. So you can't just have a bunch of crusade cards sitting down here. After that's done, you do the reset. So the player who, here, let me go back up to the player board here. When you do your reset, the player who took the initiative, if anyone, takes the first player token and so gets that, so they know they're going first. You collect all your dice from your player boards, any completed crusades, and any Vikings cards, all your dice, take them back. You take every building card that wasn't purchased, and you get rid of them, and they're just gone. And then you repopulate the board here with 6 new cards, like so. So you know what's going to be up for the next time. And then you also, if you used trade tokens, and I didn't explain trades, which I'll do in just a second. If you used any of your trade tokens, they look like this, and on the back like that, you reset them back to the correct process, if you will. This is also the moment that if you have 3 or more resource, you have to either get rid of it, or they can trade it. And this is a perfect time for me to explain trading. Basically, when you trade resources, they're like wood is 2, grain is 3, stone is 4, and sand is 5, and coins are 1. What you can do is you can trade 1 type of resource for 1 type of resource by using a trade token. And when you do that, you don't get change. And you can't say, I'm going to trade 1 sand for 1 wood and 1 grain. You can only go 1 resource for 1 resource. So you could go, I'm going to trade 4 wood for 4 wood for 2 stone, because 4 wood would be worth 8, 2 stones are worth 8. You could say, I'm going to trade, because grain's worth 3, you could say I'm trading 2 grain for 1 sand. Now that would be worth 6 for 5, so you'd be kind of losing out a little bit, but if you really needed the sand, you could do it like that. You can also trade for coins as well. You could trade, 2 sand for 10 coins if you wanted to. I mean, those are those options. That's how you use the trade tokens. All right, I mentioned several times that I show you how Vikings work. Vikings are pretty straightforward. Let me find a Viking card here. All right, there we go. So the Viking card has this, and it says, these first 2 are for 2 to 4 players. Or, I'm sorry, the first 3 are for 2 to 4 players, and this is if you're playing with 3 or 4 players. So you only use this last one if you have at least 3 players. And so what happens to this is you take these 4 dice, and you roll them, and then you populate... Oh, geez, I rolled pretty well for these. And you populate the Viking card with those dice and those pips. And now you have to have... This is when you actually have your dice that you've already rolled, because this is an event. Remember, you roll your dice before the event. You have to combat the Vikings card to, try to prevent anything bad from happening. So, starting with the first player, they have to... have a die that can combat the first die. So you'd have to have a 5 or a 6 to combat that die. So if you're the first player, you go like that, and you combat the first thing. If they do that, you automatically gain 1 prestige for doing that. If you want to continue, you can place another one. Like so. And you get another prestige. And then they can stop at any time, but once they put one down, then they can go to the next. Then they go to the next player, and they have to either place a die on there, or they end up having to place one of their peasants. So basically, they send a peasant off to fight the Vikings. If you do that because you don't have a 3 or just you don't want to, you immediately lose a prestige for doing that, and then your turn's done. You don't have to worry about it. But then the next player, then if they had it, then they can go like so, and then they would get that bonus prestige for taking out that last die. After all is said and done, if there are more player dice on that card than there are player cubes, you defeat the Vikings. On a win, the player that placed the most dice receives an extra 3 prestige points at that point. You don't get any extra reward for a tie. So if there was like 4 of them, all 4 people put 1 die on there, or 2 people put 2 dice on there, it would just be a tie and nobody would get any bonus prestige. If you lose, it's because there's more cubes on there than there are dice. And then on a loss, the player with the most dice placed does not receive any extra prestige because they didn't actually defeat the Vikings. But the players also lose 1 built building or tower of their choice because the Vikings destroy them. Yeah, go Vikings. They place the building back in their supply so they can still build it again, along with any peasants, archers, or sheep that were on the building or tower. If a player doesn't have any built buildings or towers, then you have to lose all their coins because you've been ransacked. If you have a built tower building, they have to lose it. You can't choose to lose your coins. And so that's what happens with the Vikings. I hope that explains it pretty well. Alright, so I ended up kind of pretty much just going over the entire game anyway, even though I tried not to. I hope you have a pretty good, clear understanding of how King's Abbey is played. But let me tell you what I think about the game in my conclusion. Alright, there you go. That is how we play the King's Abbey. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't going to show you everything, but I ended up showing you anything anyway. So, I hope that was fairly straightforward and you got a pretty good grasp of it. This is definitely one of those games that, like, it's... Well, if you've played worker placement games before, it's going to come pretty quickly. Especially if you've played maybe you've played, like, Stone Age, Pillars of the Earth, things like that. I got a lot of feelings about that. And those are 2 games that I love. And so when I got this game, and I've really watched this game progress. The designer, Randy, the game that I first got from him that he was designing, it bears a resemblance to the final game that we see in front of us today. But I've really watched it progress and grow and become better. And he's worked really hard on it, and I mean, this final product that we have here is quite the excellent game, actually. But I've always been a fan of worker placement games. If you watch these reviews, and I really like games where I can build something. It's games like Agricola or Caverna when you can like see your little area of the world, you know, growing and becoming something, and like finding those cards that work well together, you know, finding those combinations, you know, getting those nice rolls that allow you to get those perfect combination of resources, and then if you can't get that perfect roll, you know, using the stuff that you built, using the wagons or the tool bags or whatever, you know, to combine those different things and solve the puzzle to achieve those points and achieve this creation that you're making. And there's enough variance each time you play it, because like you might be saying, oh, if I can just get a tithe barn or something, you know, like, but you know, there's a really good chance that building just isn't going to show up for you, or you know, somebody is going to buy it before you get a chance to, things like that. Oh, good, my cat's here. So you know, it hit on all cylinders for me, and this is like, this is a game that, oh, hold on a second here. This is definitely a game that, like, I'm not going to say I run on autopilot, but it's one of those games that after you play it for the first time, it just clicks, and it works perfectly. It's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of like a tend your own garden game, and like I know there's times when like I've kind of gone against that, but I like the efforts that have been put forth to put like that little combination of people, like, you know, knowing full well that somebody like isn't able to like defeat a Viking card, and like just saying, even though you have a die that could beat it, looking at their dice and saying, oh, well, yeah, you can't do it, can you? So I guess we're just going to let you go ahead and try to fight the Vikings. Oh, look at that. You lost, you lost peasant. You lost your, you lost some points or whatever. Things like that. Or even just negotiating to like come up with a way to solve a crusade or things like that. I mean, I really like that. And plus, this is definitely one of those games that has the wonderful multiple paths to victory. I mean, are you going to focus on your Abbey? Are you going to focus on crusades? And the thing is that there is that nice little internal clock to the game where it tells you basically, well, darkness is like growing, and so you have to kind of pay attention to that. You have to pay attention to making sure you have at least the defense available to protect that. No, I totally did forget one thing, and I apologize for this. There is the option. You can always place a die, because the dice basically represent your monks. You can place your dice on the defense track, on top of your player board. If you know that you aren't able to, like, you know, get an archer or build your altar or raise your level or whatever, you know, you're just not able to get that defense that you need, you can place dice on there as well. But I mean, but when you sacrifice stuff like that, then it's like those dice can be used for so much of better. You know, to collect resources or to move your people so you can activate, you know, get them to the end of the pews so you can then activate them, baptize them, and get them working within, you know, your buildings that you made. So, I mean, there's all these little wonderful working gears throughout the game, and I love when you get those gears to kind of slide together and click and work really well. And my cat's really freaking out right now. This is crazy. So, for all those reasons and more, I really enjoyed the heck out of King's Abbey. It's that wonderful, perfect, medium-weight Euro that, like, if you are in a gaming group that plays games like this, they're going to pick up on it immediately. It's got a lot of cool little innovative mechanisms working together, a lot of discovery fun, as well as the game. I mean, it was like this is one of those games that I keep bringing it back to the table because of the fact that it's different each time, and so it kind of presents a different puzzle each time that I play it. And, you know, like I said, for all of those reasons, I really think you should check out King's Abbey, especially if you like games with medieval themes, if you like worker placement games, if you like resource collection games. All of those reasons, I think King's Abbey would really hook up really well with you and your group. So, there you go. If you have any questions about the game or whatever, comments and what have you, please post those, and I will answer anything that you might possibly have. As always, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And until the next time we meet and watch a video, or you watch one of my videos, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye now.